Hey everyone, and welcome to Rare Liquid Careers. My name is Ben, and a lot of you guys may have come from my investing channel, which is the first YouTube channel that I've started. And you may know my story and background a little bit, but in case you're new here, and I think a lot of you guys actually may not have come from that channel, I wanted to share a little bit more about my background, why I left investment banking, why I started YouTube, and all of that in today's video. And so, jumping straight into today's agenda, I'll first explain why I left banking. I'll then go over why I made the shift to YouTube. And lastly, I'll be sharing the most important lesson I've learned throughout my career so far. And with that said, let's get first started off with why I left investment banking. To provide some context and background, I used to work at JP Morgan as an investment banking analyst for a few years from 2015 to 2018. And while I was there, I worked on, I think, 15 transactions or so that closed. The total transaction volume was over $13 billion. Around 8 or 7 of them were M&A, and the rest were equity offerings. Now, like most investment banking analysts, I do have my fair share of horror stories. You can actually learn more about them in this video right here. But I actually found the overall experience of banking to be really well worth it for the professional and personal skills that I developed. In particular, I really liked financial modeling, and so that's why I still build models on my investing channel to this day. I know it's kind of nerdy, so the reason that I quit banking was not necessarily because of the long hours or the tough kind of political environment or anything that you might hear as being super negative about investment banking. When you graduate college and you're an investment banking analyst, you kind of feel like the world is your oyster, whether or not it's true. And it's because, you can kind of do anything in business, or at least that's what it feels like. You can join a private equity firm or a hedge fund and easily have your total compensation cross $300,000 to $400,000 just a few years after your 2-year analyst program. Or you could pivot into something like tech. You could go into law school if you want. There's just so much that you can do. During that time when I was an analyst, I wasn't actually really sure in terms of what I wanted to do, and I felt like I was actually a little bit paralyzed by just all this opportunity in a sense. And I know that sounds like such a big first world problem, but I think even if you're not an investment banking analyst and you're in kind of almost any other field, you still have a lot of opportunities and things you can do, and it's easy to be just paralyzed by that fear. And I did recruit for certain industries here and there to just like poke around, see my interest and where or how interested I was in other industries. But eventually what caused me to actually quit was something very personal to me. And that's back in 2017 when my mom was diagnosed with ALS, which is the same disease that Stephen Hawking's had. It's when all your muscles in your body deteriorate and you eventually become paralyzed. And so that's what really caused me to recalibrate and think about what is really important to me in my life. And I thought about everything from I think it was almost an entire year where I was thinking about what is really important to me. And then ultimately I quit in February 2018. Ultimately, the reason that I quit was that I felt like I was not really pursuing what I truly wanted to do in life, which ever since I was 10 years old was to start my own business. And when my mom was diagnosed, it felt like life just hit me with a brick, and I could really sense and understand how fragile life was, because everything for me just changed in that 1 year when I just saw what my mom had to go through, where her right arm first, she wasn't able to use chopsticks, and then her left arm, and then her legs. It was just this experience where I saw someone's life be really taken away from them. And I just didn't want to end up later down the line, wishing that in my 20s when I was young and able to take risk, to have not done anything or not taking the risks that I should have. And so that's essentially what everything boiled down to. And so I did something that I probably don't recommend to most people, which is that I quit without a plan. I decided to just spend some time with family in Korea, which is where my mom moved to from the US. And then I backpacked and traveled around for 6 months or so. And it's kind of corny, but I was just kind of like soul searching in a sense. And then I started a business called Aesthetic Studios, which was aiming to be the Nike for creatives. So basically, just as how Nike honors great athletes like Michael Jordan, we wanted to create a brand that honored really great creatives and artists as well, because we felt like there was a brand that needed to exist and fill that niche. But that entire business was super tough, super low margin. COVID also made it super rough, and I didn't have any experience in fashion. It's just kind of the first idea I really thought of and was passionate about, so I gave it a shot. And then I ended up closing down that business at the end of 2020. That next leads to why I decided to become a full-time content creator on YouTube. After I closed down my fashion brand, I was kind of like, oh crap, like I have no idea what I'm gonna do next. And then I applied to a few jobs, but then didn't get a reply. So I was like, holy crap, I might actually be a little bit screwed. And so I decided to apply to business school because school gives you this blank slate where you can kind of pivot your career into not anything you want, but you get a lot of new options, right? And so that's what I ended up doing. And then while I was waiting for my application results, because I submitted everything on January 2021, and it takes like 3 to 4 months for the actual results to come out. And so during that time, I was like, why don't I try this whole YouTube thing? And so that's when I started Rare Liquid, which is the investing channel that I run, which I mentioned earlier on in the video. And my goal with that channel was I felt like I saw a lot of YouTube videos and channels out there that wasn't providing super great information in the investing and finance world. And so I wanted to provide, I guess, a little bit more thorough and thoughtful research and videos about finance. And so that's why I decided to kind of like make those videos. And I also had career related videos at first on there, but then eventually I kind of realized that the channel felt a little bit too confusing. So I created Rare Liquid Careers, which is what you're watching now. And then I have Rare Liquid, which is just purely for investing. And so I would say that Rare Liquid has kind of evolved over time. And now for this channel, my goal is to help you land your dream job or shape your dream career, whatever that kind of means to you, because I feel like having worked in banking where you're just in this like corporate hamster wheel and working really long hours, and then doing a fashion brand, which was just like super, super creative, but didn't really work out. And now I'm running, this YouTube channel and being a content creator, which is starting to do pretty well. I feel like I have this kind of range of experiences that have really showed me what work can mean to people if it fills a certain need or certain purpose and has meaning. And so I really just want people to have that as well, as much as possible. And it doesn't mean you need to be an entrepreneur or do anything crazy. I just want people to be in jobs that they really care about and love. And that's my goal with this channel. Of course, it's skewed towards business because that's just what I know best. So that's pretty much why I decided to be a content creator. And I do also need to explain that I got into school for my MBA in 2021 in around April or so, but then I deferred by a year in order to spend more time with family. And so that's why I'm starting my MBA at Wharton later this June actually. Wow, it's coming up in a few weeks. On that note, I'm on TikTok now and I've been posting videos pretty consistently, and I'm going to be sharing a lot of my experience throughout my MBA journey on TikTok, so feel free to check that out if you're interested. I'm also going to be posting a lot on my IG stories and on just like IG posts, so feel free to check out my Instagram if you want to follow along with my journey. All right, now next up, let me share with you the most important lesson I've learned from my career so far. Thinking about the most important lesson in my career so far was pretty challenging because I actually feel like it's easier to like just spew out 5 different lessons and, just kind of like cover a lot of bases. But I wanted to really challenge myself to think of just one. And to me, I found that lesson that I found to be the most important is that it's just infinitely better to be working for purpose or meaning versus anything else. I know that might sound obvious or it's not really something that's super groundbreaking, but I just want to share with you what it personally means to me. And there's a lot of different aspects to it. The first is that, I used to kind of work for money where I was in investment banking and compensation was a huge deal for me. I also worked for promotions where I felt like I really wanted to get that like top level ranking at my investment bank where I was working as an analyst. And even though I earned a lot of money and I performed really well, I felt like all those accomplishments ultimately didn't really mean that much. And on a day-to-day basis, it wasn't a really great driver in terms of something that really fueled me in a positive way. I think it's super, super easy these days, especially with like social media where you see all these people with like fancy cars and all that stuff, and you compare yourself to them and you just want so many things because you know what's out there. And I think it's easy to fall into the trap of wanting, money, prestige, whatever all that means, right? And for me, leaving that and starting my fashion brand, where even though I was losing money every day so much, and I was like driving this beat up like 2002 minivan, eating the same food every day, struggling to pay my bills, like even though I was on a grind, it just felt so much more meaningful. And of course, it wasn't sustainable because, like eventually you do need to make some sort of level of income. You can't just like piss all your money away. But anyway, what's the point I'm trying to make? So anyway, even what I'm trying to say is that even during that difficult time, I actually felt the most free, and it was so much more enjoyable and full of so much more creativity than investment banking, even though I had, a lot of comfort and security when I was working in finance. Something I realized about myself over the past few years is that I've always been someone who worked really, really hard, but I only recently realized that I was just kind of working hard for the sake of working hard. And what I mean by that is I grew up with like the Mamba mentality of like Kobe Bryant, and came from like an immigrant family where working hard was just super important because my parents like sacrificed so much. And so in school and at work, everything was just about like work ethic. And I thought that it was just so great and important to have a strong work ethic. And while I do think that that's important, that's actually not the most important value that I have now when it comes to work. It's actually just, as I kind of talked about throughout this whole, like, what is my most important lesson that I've learned? When I now shift my mental framework more towards working for meaning and purpose, it actually causes me to work hard, but in a different way. It's not just I'm working hard in order to like put in the hours, but it's towards a certain goal or feeling that where I want to accomplish something that's important to me. And so the working hard comes as a byproduct as opposed to being like the main focus. And so now with Rare Liquid, I feel so fortunate to be working on something that I truly care about and is producing enough income for me to be able to just kind of manage my own lifestyle, work towards something that I really care about. And it's pretty different from Aesthetic Studios, where everything that I was doing with that business, I felt like things were just failing. And, it's kind of, maybe it sounds like very, I don't know, like it may sound like it's easy for me to tell you all of this now, right? Because I have gotten to, this point, which is, I'm not even saying like I'm super successful or anything, but, I'm just saying that as someone who is working every day with like this kind of purpose, it was not an easy path here. It took me a few years in banking, a few years with a failed business. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you're in a position where you don't necessarily feel like you're doing what you truly care about yet, that's okay, because it takes time to get there. And for me, at least, I just like fell into it. Like I never ever thought in my life that I would be a content creator, yet here I am making videos like almost every single day on like TikTok, YouTube, making posts on Instagram. Like it's all about content these days, and I actually really enjoy it. And it just kind of happened that as I was applying for my MBA program that, I just like decided to do this. And I was able to draw all the experiences that I got from investment banking, from finance with my investing channel, and then all the kind of entrepreneurial and creative skills I got from working on the fashion brand to create Rare Liquid and the YouTube channel and content that I'm doing now. And so things just kind of figured themselves out. And so just have faith in that process. With all of that said, I wanted to leave you guys with a quote, which is that you are the universe experiencing itself. And to me, that quote means that life is not just about money or prestige or career. It's kind of just you navigating this crazy world that we live in and just gathering all these experiences that fill you with great and positive and also the negative emotions, having ups and downs, going through all of that with whatever mindset that you have in learning and growing. That's really, to me, what life is all about. And hopefully that kind of resonated throughout this entire video. Lastly, I just wanted to remind you that if you want to follow along in my journey or just kind of interact with me more, I have TikTok and Instagram, which I'm starting to spend more time on. So feel free to DM me or check out that content if you're interested. And with that said, thank you all so much for watching. Hope to catch you in the next video. Thanks so much and peace out.